George Adamski, born April 17, 1891, was a Polish-American author who became widely known in ufology circles, and to some degree in popular culture, after he displayed numerous photographs in the 1940s and 1950s that he said were of alien spacecraft. He claimed to have met with friendly Nordic aliens, or space brothers, as he called them, and claimed to have taken flights with them to the moon and other planets. Mr. Adamski has had many documentaries and conferences covering his evidence and claims. I've put together a program featuring some of the most compelling footage captured from a time period when people coming forward with UFO tales were thought of nothing less than crazy.
Moving by that house, behind the power lines, it's a saucer-shaped craft with most of the propulsion system turned down low. Here is this half speed to give you a better idea of the view of this, the maneuverability. I had one astronaut on a MUFON lecture a couple months ago in Orange County ask me a question, a shuttle pilot, why do they move what we call erratically? And I mentioned to him the fact that aerodynamics doesn't apply to them the same way. This is a picture of a newer type of craft. The bell-shaped craft is a very old historical craft that they came with for reasons to remind us in our historical record. But this particular lenticular craft is capable of interplanetary travel without the carrier craft. This is taken in Wisconsin. And if this craft's maneuverability for both towards you and then moving backwards and then sideways, dipping, these type of films astounded the military. Still some of the best in civilian hands. Completely different place, completely different environment. This is half speed. These craft can range anywhere from the smallest of about 33 feet, the largest of the bell-shaped probably about 120 feet. The cigar-shaped craft from about 1,000 feet is their smallest to about 20 miles. This is theirs. There's a difference between ours. We'll discuss that. This is taken in Boston. This is a smaller, what you call registering disc, or what George referred to as a registering disc. This is a remote control device, very much like we have ROVs that we use in submersibles that go down and do some of the investigation for us. A registering disc is there to collect information as well. If we were going to use a science term for it, we would call it a probe. And it shows you, once again, it works on free energy in which there are about 1,200 lines per square centimeter. And through that magnetism, they propel themselves quite sufficiently past the speed of light. And George made that claim that they could go as fast as the speed of magnetism, which is twice the speed of light, and everybody said, well, that's impossible. According to Einstein, you can't do that. And if we're well read, we know about 6 months ago, we actually admitted to the fact that acceleration past the speed of light is attainable. In fact, we've simulated it. So over the many decades, the information that was given to George about space, its conditions, all have come full circle to be validated. And he's probably the only one I know that has given such a plethora of information that was really sought out and has provided true interaction at all levels. This is in Silver Springs. And what you're going to see here is that in later footage, prior to the larger craft coming down, the registering disc comes down here between the trees and measures the distance. And this information was later uplinked to the computer of the larger craft, so that the craft could come down and do that maneuvering within that tight space near the camera in order to be filmed successively. You'll see here, of course, you've got 8mm film that's all old. This comes from the 50s.
While I was attending Northrop Aeronautical Institute and working for Douglas Aircraft in El Segundo, California, I had heard about George Adamski in one of the Sunday newspapers. He had his story and his pictures of contacts, plus pictures of his ships. Well, I had, by that time, seen so many during the day and the night that I felt I would like to go up and meet this gentleman. On the weekend, he would entertain people who would come to see him, military people, engineers, scientists, people from all walks of life. He had taken some beautiful pictures of the scout craft as well as the carrier ships. I went up to see him. He had a 6-inch telescope that he used to take the pictures of the flying saucers. And in using that scope, when I finished, I was just about to take my eye off the eyepiece when there was a blue-white streak that went by, and I jerked my head up to see if I could see it, and I didn't.
These are some of the films George Adamski took by himself. He shot this one in Mexico. A cigar-shaped craft hovers over the street. Adamski took this film through the portal of a spaceship. It shows a white disk in Earth orbit. In another film from Mexico, a luminous telemeter disk moves in front of a bush. Behind the bushes, we recognize the dome of a landed scout ship.
That he was telling the truth was very easy for me because I got confirmation through sightings I had on my own. George had a lot of sightings, and he told us how small reconnaissance objects, not bigger than a tennis ball, looked. He told us that there were some even larger. He told us there was reconnaissance object with a crew, normally 3 normal-looking people and 2 robots. He told us there was big motherships who carried the flying saucers into the atmosphere before they released them. He told us about objects, underwater objects which could fly in space or dive. And he told us that they could dive into the water without any sign of disturbances on the water. Even if the water was completely still, it was diving just like on a trick film in a movie with behind a mirror or something like that. And over the years, I had many sightings where I saw these small reconnaissance objects. I saw the object with a crew. I saw a mothership, and I saw 2 landings and so on. And nothing of what I experienced was outside what George Adamski had told us. So to me, there was no problem. I had the proof that he was telling the truth.
Adamski-type spaceships were observed and photographed all over the world. They have appeared over Japan and Mexico, South America and England, and in many other countries. In August of 1991, one witness was able to film a landed, dome-shaped craft near Carp in Ontario, Canada. The small reconnaissance probes were photographed in Denmark and the U.S. from close range.
I am afraid, but it doesn't matter. For life on Earth, strife.
In the south of England, Stephen Alexander filmed a telemeter ball flying over a cornfield in 1990. Cigar-shaped motherships were seen in similar frequency. This film was taken over Rhode Island in 1967. This photo was taken over Texas in the same year, or over Lake Onega in Russia in 1978. These films were shot in 1980 over Hagen in the Ruhr area of Germany. This official film of the Russian Space Agency was taken in June of 1992 by cosmonauts of the Mir space station. An identical object was photographed in June 1966 by U.S. astronaut McDivitt aboard Gemini 4. Hundreds of witnesses saw this cigar-shaped craft in April 1990 over Krasnodar in Russia. This film was taken in July 1995 in Mexico near the Popocatépetl volcano. And this cigar-shaped craft was filmed by Tim Edwards of Salinas, Colorado in September 1995. Experts who analyzed the footage came to the conclusion that the object is more than half a mile long. The mothership is surrounded by small, luminous craft.
On Sunday, July 7th, 1952, one Truman Bethram claimed to have been contacted by a saucer some 300 feet in diameter. It was commanded by a gorgeous female named Aura Raines. Then on November 20th of that year, amateur astronomer George Adamski saw a saucer land, and he met the pilot, a Venusian. This is George's description.
A man was up there and waving to me. So I come up to this fella, and he had a funny suit on him, sort of a ski-type suit. And I thought it was one piece. Well, later I have learned it's two piece.
George Adamski, I wonder if you could describe this man in detail to us.
Yeah, a man about 5'7" to 8" inches, and I would say around 135 pounds of quite delicate hands, tapered fingers, and beautiful, very sharp eyes. Looked like they looked right through you. Sometimes you couldn't hardly tell whether he was really a man or a woman. And long hair, waving, resting on his shoulders. He kind of a half-away smile, and put his hand out to shake. And it was a palm-to-palm contact that way. And he smiled. He started telling me things, and I couldn't understand. And I finally got the idea. I want to know where he's from. I pointed to the sun, and I made one orbit, called it Mercury, named it, and then Venus, and then Earth, and pointed on myself and the Earth. And then I said, where are you from? He got the idea. He finally pointed to the sun, and he made one orbit, didn't say nothing. He made a second orbit, and he pointed to himself and to that orbit. Then that meant Venus. That's how I knew he was Venetian.
But he couldn't talk to you.
He could talk. He was testing my ability of receiving impressions, he told me later. So he did understand everything I said, except I didn't understand.
When you say impressions, are you referring to telepathic communication?
That's correct. All information we received silently.
George, if you were a little doubtful, did he tell you that he was a man?
He did, but even then I was a little bit doubtful, but you know, when nature calls, and that way
we established that. Well, we got over that.
While we were standing there talking, trying to get some understanding between us, I saw a flash of lights go out, and I wonder where that come from, just like a mirror would do reflected, you know. And I looked around fast, and that's when I spotted the ship that the same ship that I photographed was hiding in this little cove. And I pointed to him, and I said, that's your ship. That's what I said. He nodded his head, and we walked all of 75 to maybe 90 feet from where we stood to this place, and that's where he finally told me to stay away from the ship, not get too close to it. It's unpowered. There was somebody else in it. You could see it, you know, shadow, somebody else in it. But talking, I forgot all about it, and I somehow pushed over, and this arm got caught under the flange, and the magnetic force, or whatever you want to call it, pulled it up suddenly and slammed it back down. And even now, unaware, sometimes this arm goes limp. He finally went in the ship, went up this hill, see, and went up on the flange there, and there was a door in there, and he went in there, and the way she took off, she went towards his mothership that I mentioned first. Later I learned how they get in and out. They have hatches at the bottom, or they come out through the side, which is certain, what appear to be portholes, certain openings there. They can come right out of the side or out of the bottom. They usually return on the top, like a flat top, like a carrier, and then slide in down the chute.
Mr. Adamski died on April 23, 1965. One UFO historian has commented, Even in the early 1950s, Adamski's assertions about surface conditions on and the habitability of Venus, Mars, and the other planets of the solar system flew in the face of massive scientific evidence. Mainstream ufologists were almost uniformly hostile to Adamski, holding not only that his and similar contact stories were fraudulent, but that the contactees were making serious UFO investigators look ridiculous. Many people claimed his photographs and other evidence were an elaborate hoax. But one would be illogical not to ask the most relative question relating to modern time dealing with this phenomena. Knowing that the powers that be have come forward to openly admitting the existence of these crafts after decades of deceit, would the same people of that time still be as adamant the evidence he presented was still a hoax? I leave you all now with footage of two of the aliens Mr. Adamski claimed to have met.
The courageous Robert Maxim, a man with a compelling testimony. At a recent expo, Maxim shared this extraordinary information about the late George Adamski, the father of ufology back in the 1950s. Adamski had an alien contact named Orthon, a Venusian being. This image was taken at Palomar Mountain, California. Known as Dolores Barrios, a seamstress at that time, but this was just a cover. If you look closely at the eyes, you can see 3 abnormalities in each eye, and a look at the nose and bone structure it raises into the forehead. This person and this being are the same person. This is Orthon on the right side, a male humanoid alien being. Let's have a closer look. What you are looking at could be an actual image of an alien humanoid being from the planet Venus. What else is interesting is that Dolores seemed to have vanished from the face of the Earth.